Welcome to another episode of the Unprofessional Parenting Podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Lainey.
Lainey.
Yeah.
This is a big episode for us.
It is.
Why is that?
Well, multiple reasons.
Yeah.
But really just one reason.
Yes. What's the one reason? Can you tell everybody, please?
This is our decade podcast.
Our number 10, baby. 10 podcasts in.
Yeah.
How you feeling about it so far?
Pretty great.
Yeah?
Always.
Do you remember where we started?
I do. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like that long ago. This isn't like our 100th episode.
Just weeks.
Yeah.
Just weeks ago.
Several weeks
But
ago.
our show has evolved enormously since
episode 1.
Since episode 1.
Also, since our just brainstorming like a year or so ago.
Yeah.
What do we want to do?
And here we are.
You know what? Someone gave us a really great piece of advice because we were stuck and we were like, I don't even know what to do for episode 1. And this person just kept saying, just start.
Please do it.
Just start.
Stop talking about it and do it.
You just have to start.
So here we are 10 episodes in.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good one. Yeah. And so I thought that since we were doing our 10th episode of this podcast, that we would go through the theme of 10 kind of.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be talking today about the 10 misconceptions of foster care. Maybe some preconceived notions that people have out there about what foster care is, or myths or things that go into it that might not necessarily be true.
Yeah.
So we kind of want to talk a little bit about those 10 of them. And so we're going to spend a few minutes talking about each and not do a whole podcast episode on each, which we probably could do.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Yeah.
And there's definitely more than 10, but we just, picked the 10 that came to our minds.
Yeah, pick 10 that we thought that our people would want to hear.
Sure.
And so here we are.
Yeah.
All right. So the first one I'd love to talk about and bring to our attention is that you have to be foster parents in order to be involved in foster care. Mm-hmm. I would like to kind of dispel that misconception right now.
Like the only way to be involved in the world of foster care is to be a foster parent. Like that's the only thing you can do.
And there's so many other ways that people can be involved in foster care.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be just opening your home and allowing somebody to come in and live with you.
Right.
There's multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple ways. Can you talk about some of the ways?
Yeah, there's tons of organizations that are involved in this space. And I mean, we could give lists of those locally to us.
Yeah.
But nationwide, there are organizations that are serving foster families or in the foster care realm in some way. So I would just encourage people to research in their area. What does that look like? What are those organizations? Because that's the easiest way. They're already doing the work. They already have the programs. Just plug in and be a volunteer with them.
Yeah. And professionally, you are working on a project right now with our church and one of the initiatives of our church to launch a something called a compassion center, which is going to house all of the foster care and adoptive ministries that we partner with as a church.
Yep.
But can you talk a little bit about your job and what you do professionally and maybe some of the ways that you have helped people plug into serving foster families, and so people can understand that it's not just about being a foster parent?
Right. So I'm on staff at our church. I'm a social worker in that capacity. So I just help people connect to the need. And there's just so many avenues. In the Compassion Center specifically, the idea is that we are giving people outlets to serve foster families and foster families be served, from their recruitment all the way through them having foster children in their home, and then even on to helping that child find permanency, whether it's through adoption in their home, through reunification with their parents, like whatever that looks like. So from beginning, and then there's really no end, like from beginning to supporting through permanency. We want to see families and children supported and healed and all that stuff.
Yeah, we want people to step up and say, listen, I might not be able to open my home right now. I might not be in a place financially or just have the physical capabilities to have somebody come into my home, but I can serve somebody who's already doing it, somebody who's in that level.
It's easy. I mean, informally, if you know foster families in your life, take them a meal.
Yeah.
Ask them how you can help.
Send them a gift card.
And I would encourage and be like, hey, I want to help you. Give me one thing, like one very specific thing that I can do for you and your family to serve you.
Yeah.
Because if you reach out to a foster family, also make sure you know this foster family. Actually, now that I think about it, don't
heard you're
just
a
go like
foster family.
hunting foster families down.
Right.
But if you know a foster family, if you reach out to them and are like, hey, how can I help you? Most of the time, like 99% of the time, they're going to be like, thanks, and then like never get back to you.
Right.
So just be really specific and intentional. But also there's ways to serve on like care teams and support teams.
Yeah.
There's ways to help even the professionals that are working in this space, like case managers, supporting them, praying for them. Also being a guardian ad litem. That's like one of the coolest.
What is that?
I'm pretty sure that is nationwide. I don't think that's a Florida thing.
No.
But it's a volunteer position where you advocate specifically for the interests of a foster child in the court. So you are a party to the case, you sit at all the meetings, you get to know this foster child and what would be in their best interest, and then you literally go to court and you show up to the meetings and you advocate for that.
Yeah. And each one of the positions, if you will, along the way, the support system, every single one of those every single piece of that support is vitally important to the health of the foster care system in your area. Like, it's incredibly important. And we've talked in previous episodes about just the support that we've felt in this process and the fact that we have had help all along the way. So there's multiple different ways that you can get involved. It doesn't have to be just welcoming a child into your home.
Right. That's like the big ask.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Well, people hear foster care and they're like, wow, I have to open my home and like kind of like rearrange my entire life or something. But there's simple ways that you can start, simple steps that you can start to get involved in the process to support. And I think that's that people need to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
What about this next one here?
Okay, another one is that the misconception number 2, all foster kids are troubled kids or bad kids.
Or have behavioral issues, right? Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, dissect it, Matt.
Dissect it, okay. Well, I don't think it's true, first of all.
No.
It's definitely not true. Each child is unique in what they bring to the table.
Yeah.
Each child has gone through a traumatic experience of being removed from their biological families for whatever situation it may be. Some kids have seen things that you wouldn't expect. Some kids have experienced things that are very hard, but that doesn't make them innately wrong or bad people.
Yeah, I hold to the belief that there is no such thing as a bad child. There are children that come from very bad circumstances.
That's very true. Very true. Yeah, so it is that misconception of, well, if I open my home to a child in foster care, my home is going to be a wreck. They're going to come in wreaking havoc.
Right.
It's going to be insane. I'm not going to be able to control. They're not going to follow instructions or directions. And we've found just from personal experience that that's not the case with our kids.
Yeah. I mean, they're kids.
Yeah.
They don't listen perfectly.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. But it's not anything above the normal level of what you'd expect. Right. But we do have to navigate again their trauma responses to things.
I mean, they definitely have special needs. I don't want to glorify this process that it's like these are little angels walking into our houses, but it's also not the worst thing in the entire world. Like, they are children.
Right.
They're little human beings.
Right.
And we are there to help them through their struggles, and they have struggles.
Yeah.
They have a lot of struggles, but I've never felt like it was so much that I was crumbling and I didn't know what to do.
Right.
I mean, there have been many times where we have asked for advice, we've sought counsel, we've asked our supports to desperately pray for us and our children because of what they were struggling with. But not every child that walks into your home is like a serial killer or something.
Let's hope not. But there are stories out there of foster kids, and we've known people who have had trouble with their foster kids, and that's a reality of life. That's a reality of life with any kid. I mean, you can have a rebellious child that's biologically your own child, right? Who you can't control or give instruction to or those things, but I think with foster care you also have to understand your role and the role that you're serving in the life of this child as well. It's not you are not coming in to be head honcho disciplinarian chief executive officer of their entire life.
Right.
You are fulfilling a role for a season in foster care to show love and support, and that you're going to be there.
Right.
And I think going in with that mindset kind of helps you deal with some of the things you may see in your home that may be unexpected from a behavioral aspect, right? As you're learning the child's behaviors and you're growing with them as well.
Right.
Yeah. Let's move on to this next one. This next one is that foster kids did something wrong themselves to get them into the situation. Like they must have done something wrong. They must have been bad at home. They must have, something happened here that they did to put them in the situation. That's completely not true.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, not at all.
How does a child end up in care?
Yeah, nothing that a child does could result in them being in foster care. So when an abuse report is called into the state's hotline, or law enforcement is involved in some way that kind of uncovers there's some abuse or neglect going on here, the spotlight is always on the caregiver, the parent.
Yep.
Always.
100%.
So the documents that are filed with the courts, the like reports that are written, everything is biological parent did XYZ, or biological parent's boyfriend or girlfriend did XYZ.
Right.
Like it's always the adult in the situation that is under the spotlight.
Yes.
And it's never a child's behavior that is the reason for coming into the system.
Children are removed from their home, their guardianship, whatever it may be, because of a situation that they find themselves in with their biological family, where it's unsafe.
Yeah.
And the parents, for a season, might be unfit to have these children in their home because it's an unsafe place. Right.
Yeah. It's never the child.
It's never the child. So if you're sitting there thinking, I can't get into foster care, I can't open my home because, number one, the behavioral issues, which we just talked about, or you have this thought that kids had done something wrong in their families to be removed, or they were just so troubled that they were removed from their family. That's not the case.
Right.
It's not the case. It's about the parents that are involved.
Yep. And it's always about the protection of the child.
Yes. And that's the highest priority, is protecting the children. So you're removing them from the unsafe environment and prayerfully, hopefully putting them into a safe environment.
Right.
And, there's some gray areas there as well, but it's a tough process for kids to go through. Right. So don't view them with that mindset that they have done something wrong.
Right.
Because they're just trying to figure out what life looks like now.
Yep.
All
right, number 4. Foster parents are in it for the money, baby.
Show me that money. Honestly, show me the money, because we haven't seen much.
I would love it if this was a get-rich-quick
scheme.
Yeah,
right?
No. I hear this all the time. I see this on comments on social media all the time.
It's really funny.
And it takes everything within me to not just respond to every single one of them. Like, if I was going to do something to get rich,
this wouldn't be it.
This ain't it.
No way.
It would not be something that turns my entire life upside down.
Sure.
It's going to be something that's like only positive ever.
Yeah, positive ever with minimal effort.
And kids are going to have nothing to do with it.
Right. No, just kidding.
No, it's so crazy to me that people think foster parents do this to get rich, because I've never truly seen that result. Like, I've never seen a foster parent be like, wow, look how rich they are now.
Yeah, right.
And
we bought a boat with all the money that we made.
Secondly, full disclosure, you can look up your state's foster stipend. and see how much a foster parent is given every month to support their children. Now, it is true that foster parents receive money from the state government to support the needs of children in their home.
Right.
That's true across the board. Like, even if a foster child goes to like a group home, or goes to a non-relative or a family friend or something, like, that money, it's a board rate is what they call it. Like, that money goes to whoever is caring for that child. If it's a group home, if it's a family friend, if it's a foster family, like, that money follows the child to pay for their basic needs.
Yeah. And I want to highlight that the last thing you just said, basic needs. That's about how much you're getting.
Basic. When I'm paying $600 a week for groceries.
Yeah. It ain't covering much. Our kids are eating through their stipend real quick.
Yeah, in like the first week of the month.
Right.
Yeah, so it is not, I mean, and maybe that's a good thing to point out, like, if you are already struggling financially,
Yeah.
it's also not a good idea
Nope.
to think like, well, if I bring a kid into my home, I'm going to get money from the government and be
Right.
fine. Like,
Right.
that's also not the case.
Honestly, that's just the entirely wrong mindset as well.
Oh, of course.
Like, just morally, I mean, you should not try to
Right.
exploit the system for money because number one, you ain't gonna get it.
Right.
But number two, the motive has to be something different, and that was never our motive getting into foster care. It was because we saw the need and we knew that we could
Right.
step in and help.
Right.
We ain't trying to get
Yeah,
rich.
like you are not getting rich from this.
That's
No
a
way.
fun. That might be the funniest one I've heard out there. It's like if you only knew. I mean,
But you can't. That's the thing. You can.
Yeah.
You can literally look. It's all
it's there.
public record.
Right.
You can see how much a foster parent is paid a month
Exactly.
for a child. And then you can do the math on how much groceries cost, how much diapers cost, how much clothes cost. We won't even talk about how much field trips cost.
Christmas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
We've beat this
real
horse.
quick, yeah.
Anyway.
Not in it for the money. The next one I want to talk about is the fostering to adopt concept. And I want you to talk about that specifically because I know that we hear it often when we talk to people about foster care and adoption.
Yes.
Because our story is unique. We fostered and then we adopted.
And then we adopted. Yes.
And
so I see how it.
Yes, they correlate
happens.
in a specific circumstance. Those things can happen together. But a foster to adopt concept is not something mindset that you should have.
It doesn't exist. Like there is no such thing as fostering to adopt.
Right.
And it just grinds my gears. These are hitting all of my trigger points right now.
I'm so sorry.
Grinds my gears when people are like, "Oh, are you fostering to adopt?" No. These aren't puppies.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like they hear it elsewhere with like puppies and
yeah, that does exist in the dog world, I guess.
Right.
But you're not like trying out these kids to see if you like them
like a
and then be
date.
like, oh yeah, okay, well they're nice, I guess I'll keep them. That's not a thing. Going into foster care, the goal 99% of the time is to reunify with their biological family.
Yes.
So fostering to adopt just is not even a thing because adoption is not even the goal. Like adoption should not be on
And what is the goal of foster care?
It is reunification with the biological family.
Because that's the best case scenario.
Yes. Yeah. And even if that's not biological parents, that is aunts, uncles, grandparents, close family friends, like literally anybody except a stranger is the goal to begin with.
Right.
So fostering to adopt is just not a thing. Fostering to foster, fostering to reunify.
Yeah.
Like that is the goal.
Yeah. Can we start a march for that? Foster reunify. Like make
foster to reunify.
Yeah, I love that.
So in our cases, you know, I do understand though, like when a foster family ends up adopting the child that they were fostering, then it looks like, oh, were you fostering to adopt them? And no, that was not the goal. That's what ended up happening, but that is not the goal from the outset.
I think one of the problems that we see also is that we've talked to people who have done adoption, just straight up private adoption.
Oh, yeah.
And you see the amount of hoops that you have to jump through and the price tag involved with everything that goes into that, right?
Right.
And then you see foster care and you're like, wait a second, there's some foster instances that end up in adoption.
Yeah.
So is this a better, easier, less resistant route that I can go, less expensive route that I can go in order to, I'm just going to do that.
Right.
I'm just going to do that. And so I think a lot of people that want to adopt, which we applaud and we think that's amazing.
Fantastic.
We will promote that all day, every day.
Yep.
But when you are using the foster care system to get to the goal of adoption, that's when you don't have your priorities right. You don't have the mindset right of what foster care actually is.
And it's going to be a very, very, very difficult path for you as a family, as a parent, because you are going into a system and resisting the process of the system.
Yes.
And
that's so good.
It's not fair to the case as a whole for you to enter the process as a foster parent with the idea that you're going to adopt this child.
Right.
Because everything you do is going to be informed by your desire to adopt this child,
Yes.
which is completely resistant to how the case is set up to work in the beginning.
Exactly.
It's not fair to the biological parent that's involved. It's not fair to the professionals that are working and doing their steps and processes to help the biological family.
Yeah.
It's just, it creates such a mess. And then in the end, if or when the child you're caring for reunifies with their biological family,
Yep. It's crushing.
You're freaking devastated.
Yeah, it's crushing.
You're devastated
It's crushing.
because you thought in your mind the whole time, I'm going to adopt this child.
Yeah.
You see this child as already your own when they're not.
Right. Yeah,
it's
so
bad.
fostering to adopt is not a thing.
Yeah.
You should, only with puppies,
Only puppies, not children.
not with human beings.
All right.
Yeah, I'll get the next one. I want to read it because I love the way that you talk about this next one.
Oh, okay.
I've heard you explain it to people before, and I'm like, dang, that's so much better. So
Okay.
I'll have you.
No pressure. I hope I do well this
I'll
time.
have you comment on this, and then I'll just give the little backup thing to that.
Okay.
You can't bond with a foster child because you'll get hurt when they leave. That's the misconception.
Yeah.
You shouldn't or can't bond with a foster child because when they leave, you'll be hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, you're correct. You will be hurt when they leave.
I've heard you say this
yeah.
before. Bonding with, like, I'll get too attached. And
Yes.
You always say that
is the
point.
goal.
That's the point.
That's the point. When people are like, oh, I could never do that. I would get too attached. Yeah, no, duh. Like, that's literally what you're supposed to do.
100%.
That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to attach to these kids.
Because why? You're trying to show them what healthy
Yes.
attachments look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are inviting children into your home who have had serious trauma when it comes to attaching to caregivers in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And what a beautiful gift that you can give this child, if even for a season, you can teach them this is what a secure, healthy attachment looks like.
Yeah.
What a beautiful gift to give them.
Yeah.
And then us as adults, healthy adults, can then shoulder that burden of a goodbye.
Yeah.
And whatever that hurt is and whatever that heartbreak is, we can hold that as an adult.
Yes.
To take that off of a child who would be holding the burden of never knowing secure attachment.
Yes. Yeah.
Because why am I going to leave a child in this broken place of never knowing what healthy, secure attachment to an adult looks like?
Mm-hmm.
When instead I can take them for a season and I can show them, yes, I will attach to you.
Yeah.
I will show you what unconditional love looks like. And then if or when we say goodbye, you will go on into the world with that gift of knowing attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can shoulder the brokenness and the heartbreak that comes with that because I'm an adult.
Yes. And that's why going into foster care, I think it's very important that you are emotionally mature and can be able to emotionally handle what's about to step into your home, right? Because you never know how it's going to...
You just implying like we are very emotionally mature.
I know I am. I know you got a lot to work on in that.
I do.
Regard,
I sure do.
I'm just kidding. But when that time happens, or it could happen, and it's probably going to happen, is what does that look like for the child leaving your home?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you as the child leaves your home?
Yeah.
And again, you want to set up for this child what a healthy attachment and bonding can actually look like so that, again, so they can leave and have that with them. And so that you, as sad as it may be, the child that you've been raising as your own for the time that they've been in your home, you can shoulder that burden for them. They don't need more of a burden in life.
Right.
They don't need more unhealth in their life.
Right.
And they need to see what that actually looks like.
Yeah. Just for a little drop of statistics here. If you break...
Drop them.
And here they are. This is for our area specifically, but you've got a third of kids in care that end up being adopted. You've got another third that reunify with their biological parents. And then the other third are reunified with like family.
Wow.
Biological family, aunts, uncles, grandparents.
So you're looking at 66% of the time they're leaving.
Yes.
They're going. And again, that's the whole point. Foster to adopt, the whole thing.
Yep.
And then our next one on here kind of bleeds into our last question, is that biological parents don't deserve their kids back.
Moment of silence for that misconception.
Yeah. Man, this one's a tough one to talk about. This
Yeah.
one's really tough to talk about because you have to see what's best for the child, and you have to
Right.
set your emotions and your anger and your frustration aside.
Right. Right.
Um,
Because the children are coming into care for a solid reason. There was abuse or neglect that happened.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people have a righteous anger towards a child, an innocent child being hurt.
yeah,
Um, but man, as Christians,
yeah,
if we are professing the gospel and saying we believe in people being given grace and second chances
yeah,
and being given the chance to make it right and restore their lives, um, we have got to give people the opportunity to make it right.
yeah,
And we've got to give biological parents the resources and the support and the time to be able to do right by their children.
yeah,
And I think that that can also lead to it really leads to a beautiful thing when a child can witness their parents doing right where they have previously done wrong and saying, hey, you are worth it. And I'm going to work really hard to overcome the demons in my life
yeah.
because I want to do what's right by my child.
Because you're worth it.
Because you're worth it.
You're worth it. I think the way that the system is set up is when a child is, for those who don't understand what happens on the biological side of foster care, when a child's removed from the home and they're put into a foster home, if the parent is not facing criminal charges
Right.
in
It's not, like,
jail, in
egregious.
prison,
Yeah.
and it's not that,
Yeah.
if it's, let's say, they witness something in their home, or parents are doing drugs or something,
Substance use, yeah.
something along those lines, neglect is happening. Parents are then assigned a case. Like it's a case plan for them to be able to walk through to get government funded services and things that they can hit, and checkpoints that they can hit in a certain amount of time, to where if they complete these things, now it's not an infallible system.
Oh, of course not. Yeah.
But there are ways that a parent can progress in order to have their child come
Yeah.
back home and live with them.
Yeah.
And that is absolute best case scenario, because who's going to be the best at raising their child besides their parents,
Right.
or their guardians, or whomever back home that they already had that relationship with. So it's not they don't deserve their kids.
Right.
They deserve their children. God has placed them on this earth for this reason, with their parents, for a specific reason.
Yes.
For his sovereignty, he designed that to happen.
Yes.
Now, us, as we look at it through the Christian lens of us being reconciled and us being forgiven of our sins and us being children of grace and walking around here in the grace of God, we have to have the same mindset of that of Christ Jesus, right? Which means that we have to see people in their mistakes, in their sin, in their choices that they make, be able to be restored.
Yes.
And again, the system is not infallible.
Right.
I mean, parents will still struggle. Sometimes they don't hit their markers and their case plan, and they fail it. And that's when that 33% that you said earlier happens, when a child who's in foster care is then put up for adoption.
Right.
But you give them the chance.
Yes.
You give them the chance.
Yep.
You give them every chance that they can have.
Yep. And I think it's the most right thing for us as foster parents to come in and be that biological parent's greatest cheerleader.
Yeah.
Like, I am going to pray for you. I am going to cheer for you. And even if it's on the sidelines, even if it's not like I'm not coming over to your house for dinner every night. Like,
right.
like we're not besties, but I want you to know that, like, I am praying for you through this process.
Yeah.
When your child is living in my home, I'm speaking positively about you.
Yeah.
I am encouraging your
Right.
child to maintain a bond, an emotional bond with you while you're separated. Like, all of these things, like, I am going to cheer for you. Now, there has just come a time in our cases where that time just expired. Like, it just got to the point where we were like, okay, it's just the changes for these children are not happening.
Right.
And now we have to look at living in foster care forever is
And
not
what's-
the best case
and
scenario.
what's best for the child.
What's best for the child at this point is we got to move on.
Yeah.
But initially, for like a year and a half, we were cheering on for these parents.
Right.
Like, I need you to do, like,
Right.
your kid deserves this.
Yep.
I need you, your child needs
Right,
you
right.
to get it together.
Right.
And so the system is designed, it's also flawed, but it is designed to give parents the tasks that they need to do and then support them through it. Like, hey,
Right.
you need to do a parenting class, you need to do substance abuse treatment, you need to do XYZ, and then they are like provided
Yes.
those resources.
Here's where you go and here's how you do it.
Yep.
Here's when you do it.
To be able to rehabilitate their lives. So, man, yeah, that's a long topic we could talk about, but
We could do a whole episode.
it's really dangerous, I think, for us as humans to look at another person and just on instant say, you don't deserve your child.
Yeah.
That's a really dangerous place for our society to get to.
Can't live there.
No.
Can't live
No.
with that mindset.
All right, number next, which would be number 8. You can't say no to a placement.
I'll just quickly dispel this. You can say no to a placement. Done.
Yeah. Like when placement calls you
Right.
and you get like a, hey, we have a such and such child.
Yeah.
There's this, I think there's this underlying belief that like you just have to take a child if you're
Right.
called for it, and that's just not true.
No, you have the freedom to say, we can't do it. Our house may be open for foster children right now, but we just can't do it. Like we're in a season where we cannot do this.
Yeah, we just got an email a couple days ago like, hey, we have this child.
Yeah.
Can you take placement of it?
We can't.
And it was like, no, that just doesn't work for our family right now.
It doesn't. And you have to be able to understand that you have the freedom to be able to say.
You
say
absolutely have the freedom to say no.
no. Yeah,
And you have the freedom to ask a lot of questions.
you do.
Like,
you absolutely
when
do.
someone calls you, ask all the questions you have.
Yes.
What has this child been through? What do you know about this child? Are there any diagnoses? Do you know anything about behaviors? Do you, like, what's going on with the parents?
Mm-hmm.
What's the case plan looking like? Like, all of these questions you can ask.
Yeah.
Now, they might not have answers for
Right.
you, truly.
Sometimes they don't. Most of the time.
A lot of times they don't have
Right.
every answer because they
Right.
just met this child 2 hours ago.
Exactly.
But yeah, ask the questions and then say no if it doesn't work for your family.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have to say yes. The next one. Once a child is removed from their parents or they're adopted, the trauma in their life is over.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. It's like you sign on the dotted line and then it's like all of their trauma and all of their thoughts about their life and who they are existentially just fade away. And now they just start over brand new.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I don't think anyone truly believes that, but I think it is kind of this subconscious hope.
Yeah, you have your future now kind of lined up. So there's space and freedom to be able to let go and focus on the future and the good things.
Oh, the child has achieved permanency, so now they'll be fine.
Ain't real.
No. Or once the child is removed from their biological parent and put in foster care, they'll be fine.
Nope.
And that's not true. Trauma doesn't end just because a child enters foster care.
Yeah.
If no other trauma existed in the child to begin with, just entering foster care and being in foster care
That's a trauma.
is a trauma.
Yeah. And some of these kids are bouncing from home to home to home to home. So they're having to form quick relationships and trust, and then it's gone.
Yeah. Healing from trauma is a lifelong process.
Yeah.
And at no milestone in a case does that just magically go away.
Nope.
And I would say, if anything, these big milestones of like being removed from a parent, entering foster care, being adopted, those big milestones end up shifting the way a child processes their trauma anyway. So you're working with brand new behaviors and brand new thought processes like every time you hit a new milestone.
Yeah, and you're figuring it out from step one.
Yeah. So it's not rainbows and butterflies after
No, it's not.
after these things happen.
It's not. But I do think that once you identify the trauma and there is some finality and you understand, like, you know, if it goes from foster to adopt, we just told it that it's not an actual thing.
That's not a thing, Matt.
But if it does, it's 33% of the time it might. But there is some freedom. I remember when we told our kids, our daughters, that we were going to adopt them.
Yeah.
Right. And you remember our oldest daughter, we videotaped it.
Yeah.
And it in the moment that we said it, we wrote it on a little card, they opened it and they read it. Our oldest daughter, who has no emotional response besides laughing to everything.
That's very true.
Just broke down and cried, and it just seemed like there was a weight lifted off of her shoulders.
Yep.
I don't think that the trauma is ever fixed or healed in the moment, but I do think that there are other stressors and anxiety causers that kids live with that do start to fade away and start to melt when they have that finality, that security, that safety,
and permanency,
and that they understand, wow, this is new, this is life now, and I don't have to have these responsibilities. I don't have to think in this way. So the trauma is always the background and is always there. But I do think that there are some behaviors and some responsibilities and some thoughts that they even have of themselves that are not solved, but are thought of in a different way when those things happen.
Yeah.
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 So.
All right, last one.
Yeah.
Big number 10.
Number 10, baby. Episode 10.
Number 10 misconception of foster care is it's just too hard.
It's too hard. I can't do it.
It is too hard. And it is. But
there's a caveat.
Just because something is difficult does not mean that it's not worth doing.
That's right.
One of our daughters asks me a lot, well, if your life would be easier without me, why don't you just get rid of me? Well, ma'am, just because my life would be easier doesn't mean that's what I want.
Correct.
Just because raising children is difficult doesn't mean I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Because there is joy in difficult circumstances.
There is.
And there is blessing and there is great things that happen in doing hard things. So just because something is difficult doesn't mean it's not worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what we try to teach our kids all the time. Just, there are things that are hard that you're going to have to do. There are things that are hard that you should do because it's the right thing.
Right.
Going outside and working out.
Oh my gosh.
Our daughter wants to be a cheerleader. It's like, well, you got to put in work to do that.
Do
right?
stuff.
It's hard. Yeah. Like math is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm stepping back in and trying to help my kids with math. And it's like, those things are hard. You got to do those things.
Right.
But there are some things that are hard that you should do because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's been, kind of our thing is like, we've seen so much stretching of us and thoughts about ourselves, and even just spiritually, like the growth and the faith and the trust that we've had to have in the Lord, because this is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a very hard thing to do.
Would you say that this is the most difficult thing that we've ever done in our lives? Like individually or as a couple?
By far. This is the hardest thing we've ever done. Easily. But it does, I've never once regretted.
Right.
I've never once felt like, man, we made a dumb decision 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Never once. Never once been in that place. Now there are times where I'm like, man, this really sucks. Today sucked. And that's the reality of life, even with biological children that you have in your life. You're like, wow, okay, this is crazy, right?
Yep.
But I've never gone to bed and woken up the next morning and been like, this is a mistake, Lainey.
Yeah.
We got to get rid of these kids.
Yeah.
First of all, we can't. But second of all, it's worth it though. And like it's been a strengthener for our marriage and our relationship. And just I go back to the spiritual thing of like just the trust and the reliance that we've had in the Lord along the way. And he's proven himself. He's proven himself that number one, he exists. God exists. Number two, that he cares and he provides and he loves and there's grace and there's love.
Yeah.
And man, we're just trying to live that out in our lives. So those are the 10 misconceptions we wanted to talk about today. I'm sure there will be another episode with 10 more. Maybe it'll be 20 at our 20th.
Oh my gosh.
Just kidding. This will be an hour and a half long episode. But we want to say thank you for joining us today on another episode of the Unprofessional Parenting Podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Lainey.
And we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.